Welcome to The Brain Dump, where we study the psychology of success. Join us as we probe the habits, rituals, and routines of top-performing artists, entrepreneurs, authors, athletes, and more to uncover the timeless principles we can all use to take our lives to the next level. Are you ready to plunge the grunge that's been gunking up your mind's eye? Great, then let's get to it.
Guys, welcome back to the Brain Dump. We have the honor, this privilege, the honor. I mean, I don't even know what to say. All of the things.
We have all the things.
But here's the great thing. You know what I told him, Anthony? I'm so excited that we are not going to talk syndication today because
he was a syndication.
He wrote the book and he's like, guys, I'm tired of talking about it. So we have the honor of having Mr. Bruce Petersen in the house. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. If you can put up with my hat here for the podcast here, I look like hell, but I'm doing well.
Dude, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Bruce. When I first came into this chat and I saw your hair and I was like, he's doing something new with his hair. Cool.
It's called wearing a freaking baseball cap for a little while.
Well, great. You know, it's funny when we left Nashville because you were there and you spoke and Anthony spoke and I said, hey, who do you want on the podcast? We've got to record some stuff before we put it away because we batch. And he said, I talked to Bruce. And he said, Bruce mentioned an interesting concept of the masterminds, the rooms he's been in, the people. And I know for me, I had a similar experience when I got in my first mastermind and got around Go Buttons guys and got in rooms that I felt like I shouldn't be in, how it elevated my own thinking and my own network. And so that's what we're going to unpack today is kind of, Anthony, what would you, to put a nice bow on that conversation, what would you label that as?
I remember walking away from that conversation and Bruce used a term. It was something like pay to get as close to the sun as possible. And, this podcast is all about breaking down the psychology of success. And if that's not like a core tenet of successful mindset, which is investing not just in yourself, but also in your relationships, your network, and your accessibility to those people that are doing what you want to do, but maybe a little bit ahead of you. I was like, man, we got to have Bruce on to talk about that.
Yep. I mean, that's what it's all about. You gotta rub elbows with the right people. The people you're rubbing elbows with very often are people in the same status you are, the same state in life you are, and you yearn for more, but you can't break free of where you are because you don't realize how these great people, right? But they don't have what you want out of life. So you just got to level up somehow.
So, okay, well then I'll ask the question. One of the things that I can't stand, because me and Bruce call it like we see it. One of the things I can't stand is I find the real estate community to be boring as fuck, first of all. Second of all, same thing that you said, they're doing all the same things. They're buying the same properties, the asset class. And I made it a goal this year for myself to move in different sectors and cross, doctors and money guys and financial sectors and stuff. And I don't think enough people, maybe it's their own insecurities where they don't dive outside of their own network because they don't want to hear a contrary opinion.
Well, yes, the affirmation bias, right? The confirmation bias. Well, COVID hit, so it kind of threw a kink into this for a little while, but we're getting back to it now. So once or twice a week, I carve out time. It's not necessarily in my calendar, but I'll go, you know what? I don't have a lot going on right now. I got a break between meetings, maybe. I will literally go sit at the bookstore for 1 or 2 hours. And I'm usually not reading books because I read a lot of books at the house, listen to a lot of books, but I'm going through periodicals. I'm going through different magazines, Forbes and Money and Business Week, Fast Company. I'm trying to read and get perspectives outside of my industry because you're right. We get very myopic. We only see and hear and surround ourselves with this exact same people with the exact same group think a lot of times. And you've just got to expose yourself to different shit.
Jeff Hoffman,
yeah,
the Priceline, he said that he does this 20 minutes a day.
Yeah. I actually spent the day with him in Cleveland about 2 or 3 years ago. The dude is brilliant. And he's such a giving, just humble dude. I really enjoy being with him.
This reminds me of, loading up with the raw resources required to live like a multivariate life. If you want to be have a multidisciplinary perspective, which I think is required if you want to be able to solve problems creatively, is your ability to come at issues tangentially from different angles and not always just saying like, I have the one hammer, this is the tool that I use to get every job done. But in order to do that, you have to feed your brain with raw resources. And a lot of that then is like what Bruce is talking about there, going and reading in different industries and filling your brain with like, I don't know where I'm going to need to know what I need to know about nanotechnology, but who knows? Like maybe that'll come in handy someday when I'm making a casino for whatever reason. Like you just never know.
Right. So I was on a walk the other day. I don't have the best health anymore, but I walk every morning, and I was listening to a podcast, and it was Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was talking about NFTs. I'm like, this is such bullshit. This makes no sense. I thought, well, let me listen. I really like Gary, and I started listening. I thought, no, wait a minute. There's actually something here. And then I started listening to other podcasts about that. But because I listened to something that at first I was reluctant to listen to, I was almost like pushing away from it. This is ridiculous. Well, it was ridiculous because I didn't understand it. That's all. Mm-hmm. I had to give it a fair shot. Listen, and maybe after I listened to it for an hour, 2, 5, 10 hours, whatever, I finally come to the conclusion, there's no use for this in my life. Like TikTok, maybe, I don't know, but I gave it a chance. And now, man, I'm seeing all kinds of ways to apply NFTs, the application of an NFT in my professional life. It's unbelievable. So I'm so glad I listened to something that I wasn't ready or comfortable with.
It's interesting how often we'll come across a topic and we'll just kind of make a knee-jerk decision like, nope, that's not for me. I don't agree with that. Before we ever really understand it, it's like trying to have an educated opinion without being educated. And you have to like put in the time first to really understand the topic or the argument before you can deconstruct it and say whether or not you agree or disagree with it. Right. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened with NFTs for you, where at the end of it, you were like, okay, I was wrong. I can actually use this.
Right. It's, Malcolm Gladwell, I think, is the one that did the 10,000 hours, right? I'm thinking he's the one that coined the phrase anyways, that you don't have to spend 10,000 hours to master it and then go, okay, this sucks. I don't want to do it. But give it some attention, give it some time. But yeah, when I'm at the bookstore, I'm reading all kinds of different people from all kinds of different industries. A guy, he had a credit card processing company up in Seattle, I believe it was. And I read about this about 2 or 3 years ago. Well, the guy just said, look, he had seen something. I forget exactly what the impetus to this decision was, but he decided everybody in my company is going to make $70,000 a year. Period.
Oh, I saw this.
And now we're not going to do it all at once. So we're going to take, I think it was 2 or 3 years to roll that out. But so I thought, well, I'm not a credit card processor. I don't have this. I don't have it. But now, wait a minute. But it got my wheels turning. Why the fuck can't I do something cool like that? Maybe not exactly that, maybe less, maybe more. But why can't I do something similar? So what it prompted me to look into is how can I possibly create a 4-day work week for my employees and still give them full-time pay, right? Yes. Meaning 32 hours a week, not 4 10s instead of 5 8-hour days, but 4 8-hour days, and still give them full-time benefits and pay. I don't know that I'll get there. We have started taking those steps. We're rolling it out slowly, and maybe it doesn't work, but you know what? I was exposed to something that triggered a thought in my brain, made me go, I want to try that. So yeah, I'm always trying to do that. Learn things in other industries that you can apply.
Well, look at it from my point of view. My dad sold his practice, but I bet he was probably one of the number one dentists in Texas. And there's salesmanship there. There's customer service there. There's so many aspects of the business. He brought in consultants to make sure they were, touching the customer late. And my dad would see, like when he got done at his 40-year career, he was on the grandchild of the first person that he saw, and so we say, oh, well, that's a flipper. Everybody can teach you something. And back to your 4-hour, one of the things I made a promise to myself is that I would take off Fridays or at least go golfing or have lunch with an investor. And I caught myself being too busy and scheduling stuff on Fridays for like the last 2 months. And I was like, you know what, dude, you got to get back to that, because if you can't get done what you need to, or at least most of what you need to in that time, you're almost giving yourself too much leeway to kind of maybe make a little exceptions to what you are. But if I truly are trying to create the lifestyle that I want, then I need to stick to what me and Anthony keep bringing up, what we brought up earlier, is the core, my core values, my code that I live by is, is I want Fridays and Saturdays to kind of do my thing. And that's kind of freewheeling business.
Yeah. If you don't own your calendar, somebody else does, right? You need to be in control of your own time. And everybody hears it, but it's true. Time is the thing you can't buy more of. You can't get more of. You can't get it back. When you're 90 years old and you're dead, it's that finite thing. And you need to be very guarded of your time and very, take it very personal that, I can't get it back. So this is something I tell people all the time too, that I take a nap. I take a fucking nap, 3 to 4 times a week. I'll just go lay down in front of the TV in the bedroom and just zone out watching some baseball, or, I'm kind of a financial nerd. So I'll be watching CNBC maybe, but I'll take an hour and a half nap, and I don't apologize for it. Mm-hmm. I need that. It's like sitting at the bookstore or taking my morning walks. I need that mental downtime to just, I'm not Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm not going to work 18 hours a day and never stop. It works for him and it's great. I'm glad it works for him. And a lot of people it does. I want more balance than that in my life. I want to bust my ass while I'm working, but then I want to always carve time for my mental well-being to make sure I'm well rested and I'm well recharged all the time.
Your number one skill, the number one skill that you're going to be paid for in life is your judgment. And judgment is something that's cultivated across a lot of experience, a lot of time, but also a lot of quiet. Like you need time to think, to reflect on what you think on a topic, and not even necessarily thinking on it, just letting your brain be blank and just letting whatever comes and whatever goes, let your subconscious work. And one of the things that we don't do well, I think, as entrepreneurs, as business people, and this hustle culture is just trying to grind and not leaving enough time for that quiet reflection, or just quiet, like giving ourselves permission to sit in silence. And you're absolutely right when you say that you have to own your calendar, or somebody else is going to own it for you. And it reminds me of the topic of the initial conversation, which was paying to get into close proximity to the people that you want to be around. Because Austin, you pointed out, like, real estate people, I don't know if I would say they're all boring, but the problem is, like, if you go to like a free networking event, the quality of conversations and people you're likely to be around are the types of people that go to free events. Whereas when you're paying to go to an event where you're like, I'm going to get access to that person who really values their time, and they are willing to pay this money so that they're around people who also are at that same level. I think there's something profound that happens when you elevate that level.
Well, I know I was talking to Rock Thomas one day. He was one of the elders of GoBundance, not one of the founding members, but he was one of the elders. And he told me that he spent the year with Tony Robbins. I'm like, damn, Rock, that's cool as shit. He goes, don't be impressed by me. I paid that dude $1 million. I'm like, oh, ooh. But then that made me start thinking that I've always innately understood, get closest to the people that are at the pinnacle of what it is I'm trying to do. But then that really drove that shit home. So now I didn't pay anybody $1 million, but I've paid one guy. I'm not going to say names because I don't want to tell people how much they charge for these things, because they may have different prices. But one guy I paid $25,000 for. It's just a guy I saw at a seminar. I said, I want to be near you. I don't want to be near your organization. Your organization, your program is great for financial literacy and for preserving your cash flow, but I want to sit with you. He goes, 20, again, I won't tell you his name, but I'll tell you the price, 25 grand. I'm like, okay, done. So I got to go out to his Utah mountain home with him overnight and stay out there, walk the river that runs through his backyard. I spent $10,000 to hang out with Gary Vaynerchuk. I spent $5,000 to hang out with Jeff Hoffman. I so totally believe in spending money. People, they'll ask on Facebook groups or on Bigger Pockets, what do you think about paying some? And then, man, the hate and the vitriol that comes out. Mm-hmm. Those guys are...
You can get that information for free.
Scam artists. Yeah, why are they doing this if they... Oh my God, quit thinking that everybody's out to get you. And there's nothing wrong with paying for mentorship, for access. I joined mastermind groups. I've been a part of 3 or 4 different mastermind groups, and they've been anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month. Some of them have been $25,000 to $30,000 for a year. But my God, it's so worth it.
Well, don't you think that ultimately, as much as you're now in those mastermind groups, I can speak on that. Yes, you're paying to get access to the leaders of the group or the information or whatever you want to call it. But almost more importantly, you're paying to get access to other people that have chosen to pay that much, to take that much pride in what they're doing. And I look at my life now, and I would say that 60% of my friends are from my business relationships, my masterminds now moving forward as I've stepped into this new part of my life. Opposed, no offense to anybody back there, but that just seems to be the people I hang out with. We've done business together. We've created businesses. And I almost feel like whatever I spent for M1 was almost, I've made like double that in relationships, or triple or 10 times that.
Well, it's like Anthony talked about, when you go to the free events, well, you see free event people. And again, not to disparage anybody, but I want to be around people that are willing and understand the value of spending money to grow your mind, to expose yourself to other things. So, yeah, I think it's so important because they're fiscally vested, right? They're financially vested, but also you just know who they are. My business partner in Tennessee, Tyler Cobble, I met him in a mastermind. I was a member of the mastermind. He came in as a guest, and I did a presentation of course, on syndications, but he came up to me afterwards and we got to talking, and we formed a great friendship. I say that he calls me his fucking dad everywhere we go. He's 28. I'm 52. I'm the age of his dad probably, but I don't like when he calls me his dad. But anyways, he's just a phenomenal business partner, and we're going to dominate the world together. But I wouldn't have met him had I not gone to one of these groups that I was paying probably close to $1,000 a month to be part of.
Yeah, I think it's just hard to overstate. I think, Austin, you were mentioning it just a second ago, is this idea, if you're paying to be there, you're also getting access to the other people who've been paying to get there. And that is an obstacle. It's like a barrier. We talked about this all the time. When you're looking for a mentor, you're trying to get into the sphere of some of these high flying individuals to often set up these barriers that you have to figure out a way to get over or around or under to even get near them. And they'll do this intentionally just because most people are tire kickers that want to waste their time. And one of the easiest barriers is just monetarily. Just say like, okay, if you want to be near me, put your money where your mouth is. And I found incredible value from joining these types of groups because one is the people, but then two is also in that moment of handing over money. It's like a confirmation of the person that I want to be, which is like, I'm the type of person who invests in this aspect of myself. Mm-hmm. And that can be really powerful. And it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy then, where you're like, I am committed to seeing this through and getting excellent results because I've put my money where my mouth is.
Don't you think that also by putting your money where your mouth is, your mind or your mindset is unlocked to maybe there's an opportunity at the other end? You feel more like available for the opportunity because you paid, and maybe
you're certainly looking harder for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
When I go to a free event, I'm like, I'm here for the chips and salsa. I don't care.
But I'd be curious to get your thought on this, because I would say that not everybody wants a coach. Not everybody needs a coach, whatever you want to call it. But I would say that pricing my business for coaching is probably the hardest thing ever. Yeah. And so I'd be curious, like your thoughts, because I know you might, I don't think you coach people now, but I'm sure you have in the past, or you mainly teach in groups. But what are your thoughts on like coaching? Because when you started, I didn't want to bring up the word, but when you started syndicating, I know you had some people, that you got mentorship from.
Yeah. So I first started out charging people $10,000, and I'd give them a week of my time for a year. I mean, 1 week, every week for a year is what I'm trying to say. One 1 hour call each week for a year. And I enjoyed it, but it becomes a grind. And to Anthony's point, I think the cheaper it is, the more people can afford it. But then there's not the financial hardship or the financial, oh my God, if I don't do something with this. So not to say $10,000 is not a lot of money. It's a ton of money. It really and truly is. But my mentorship now is 50. And it's probably going to go to 100. Mm-hmm. Again, it's to weed out the people, because most of the people over my career that I've formally mentored, have done nothing with it. I've tried mentoring friends for free.
Nope,
they don't do anything. They quit showing up. They quit coming around. So I'm like, look, if I'm going to take all this time and give every single thing I own intellectually about this thing, I got to make sure you're really in this. So I talk to them. I make sure we're a good fit. You don't get to just give me 50 grand and we're going. No, if I don't think you're going to pull the trigger, if you're not going to apply yourself, I don't want your 50 grand even. I'm not that guy. It's just frustrating because what happens, they don't do what you tell them to do. Then they get frustrated. Then they go flame your ass on Bigger Pockets or Instagram or something, which is bullshit to begin with. But yeah, so I have priced mine extremely high for a reason. 50,000. I have people reach out to me all the time. Bruce, man, do you offer mentorship? Yes, I do. Here's the website. You can go check it out. And once you look it over, see what it's all about, set up a time with me on Calendly. Let's talk through it. Let's see if we're a good fit. Oh, sir, I don't really have 50. Well, man, I'm sorry. I mean, that's and I won't back down. I'll be very professional, very tactful and polite, but no. It goes back to the time, right? If you don't control your calendar, somebody else will. You have to know your value. My value, $50,000 for a year? Shit, that to me, that's a bargain. And that's a big commitment from me. And you're getting me one-on-one, award winner, 7-figure earner, and not to pat myself on the back, but it's just to make the point that think about what you're doing. You're getting close to that sun. And I really heard that from Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm sure he took it from somebody else, but I just love that. Yeah. So going back to the pricing, again, there's a very good chance I'm going to go to $100,000 for one-on-one mentorship because the bigger and more demands you have on your time, the more those private sessions, they have to cost more. Because you just have less time and you have to put something else off that may have paid you $1 million or you lost $1 million opportunity.
And so that's exactly it, right? The opportunity cost. When you break it down, $50,000 for an hour per day or per week for 1 week per year, if you work the math out on that, that's about $1,000 per hour. And then that's about $2 million a year in income, right? And so if you look at it, you're like, hey, I can either do this and you can pay me $50,000, or I can take that same time and go do this other thing and make the $50,000. So that's what you're competing with to get me is like my opportunity cost of like taking away from the time and energy to go earn this other 50,000 over here in, equivalent amount of time. And if you really want to be around like the best, it's going to cost you to do that. And I remember listening to a podcast recently with Jen Sincero, who wrote the You Are a Badass series. And she was talking about how she is like killing it, doing great. She had like a $20,000 a year coach. She was doing great. Like she had always been like elevating. She had a $5,000 coach and then $10,000 and $20,000. And each time her income would double and triple and she would have all this growth. And then she went to this conference and there was a speaker up there who was charging $80,000 for the year. And she was like, holy crap. And that made her like physically sick. But then she was like, but every other time I level up. And so she like ponied up for it. And at that point, that was like a third of her income. And she's like, I don't know if I can justify this, but within like a year, she had like tripled her income. So it was like, to be around the people that you want to be around, it progressively costs more.
Yeah. If you think you're going to hang out with Tony Robbins for $10,000 instead of the million that Rock paid, you're out of your fucking mind. Austin, you keep getting cut off. By the way,
but what I was gonna say is what I find so funny about this conversation is yes, you're charging that much, but yet Bruce, on his own dime, has come out and spoke at my events for free twice. Jake and Gino events free. That's what I find to be so interesting about this conversation is there's a dichotomy, right? But I love that about you, and I think that's why. I think that's part of your personal brand is that you're so willing to give back as well also.
Oh yeah. I'll give freely all day, almost every day. But at the same time, when it becomes that in depth, a true mentorship, yeah, I have to charge for that, but I'll help anybody. You want to have lunch with me? Don't say, hey, I want to buy you coffee because like I can afford my own fucking coffee, dude. If I have time, let's go do it. I'll just go do it. You don't got to buy anything for me. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to help anybody. And I had one guy call me. He set up a time on my Calendly and called me and spent a half hour on the phone with me. And he's asking me all these questions about real estate and multifamily and syndicating and all this. And toward the end of the call, he says, Bruce, I have one last question. Okay. Why are you doing this? Like, why am I doing what? You've given me all kinds of actionable nuggets that I can actually take from this. You didn't charge me, but now I can go start to implement and create what you have on some level. Why are you doing this for free? I said, well, for two things. When I give to you, it does not take from me. This is not a zero-sum game. You win, I lose. I win, you lose. That's just not the way the world is. And the broke ass people, that's the way they think. And I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. I said, so the better life I can help you create for yourself, it's not altruism. If I'm doing it for free, it is not altruistic at all. What that does for me internally is it lights me on fire to see you succeed. It doesn't tear me down to help build you up. And then secondly, I said, okay, we're going to say something this is going to be a little bit funnier, but selfishly, if I teach you how to have the life I have, instead of going to work for somebody else for 40 to 60 hours a week and, sitting in your cubicle, I got more cool kids to hang out with now because now you're controlling your calendar finally. So I want to help everybody in the world make seven figures because then I got my choice of the cool people to go, go to Vegas with. And I actually said that to him and he's like, I couldn't believe it. I said the word fuck and he's like, but and he backed down again. And he actually posted that on Instagram. He didn't tell me he was recording that. He posted that on Instagram and the outpouring of love and support. It's an abundance mindset. People talk about it all the time, but most people don't practice it, even though they talk about it.
It's my favorite return metric, which is return on karma. What you put out into the universe is going to come back to you. If you're putting out abundance, you're going to get abundance. If you're putting out scarcity, you're going to get that too. And it's interesting because Bruce is like this font of information. And if you just get him going, like he'll just keep pouring it out. At the mastermind event that we held in Nashville, he just came, spoke for free, just poured out information. But the difference between that and then paying him $50,000 is you're not paying Bruce $50,000 for the information. You're paying him $50,000 for his attention. And that's a very different thing because he's probably put out all the information already. He wrote a book on the damn subject. He's put out like tons of podcasts. The information is out there. The information itself isn't the valuable bit. It's his time and his attention. That's what you're really paying for.
I talk to people all the time about that too, that look, go read the guy's book, right? That's great. But if you can get next to the guy, the book is very two-dimensional. It's very static. This is it. Now I got to go do something with it. If you're sitting with the guy that wrote the book, not necessarily me, but the guy that wrote the book, well, something that comes up that wasn't in the book because we can't cover everything in any one book. It's impossible. Well, now you have a live human being with an interaction going back and forth. Oh, okay. I know you said this in the book. Well, but this is what happened to me. Okay. I'll tell you, I didn't cover that in the book, but this is exactly how you go through it. So yeah, it's having somebody in your back pocket that you can lean on when times get tough or things don't go the way you thought they were going to go.
So we have a friend. I have a friend, Leland.
No, you don't.
His wife is. We had him on the podcast. His wife is very successful on YouTube. 1.4 million followers. Like he taught it's a crazy story. And so he taught himself all this SEO. Took Russell Brunson's courses, all that thing. So I had a coaching client whose wife was in the same position. Leland refuses to coach anymore. He doesn't even consult, but he'll just they're building some stuff on the side. And he got on the phone for 2 hours and unlocked YouTube down to a T. And we got off the phone with him. He looked me dead in the face and goes, I just gave him 1.5 years worth of work. We'll see if they do it. and then just got out. And I was like, it's the truth. He gave them everything. Just like you said, you've given them all the information. I actually just finished your book last week, Bruce. And, at the end of the day, it's the conversations, right? That the podcast that we're putting out now, the book that you wrote, we don't know that it's going to hit them when, right? Or that's why you read the same book over and over again. Like it hits you differently. You hear it differently. And so it's those conversations and that for me, and this is just the way I operate, is I'm kind of working things out while I'm walking through the world. And then maybe it'll hit me 3 weeks later, a conversation we had. And so you have to get the more intelligent people you can get in a room, the more ideas you can get in a room. One of the things that I do, and tell me if this ever hits y'all, personal development for me is kind of like it feels like a noose around your neck sometimes. I'm a little crazy. Like I have to be sober now and it's not as fun and all that stuff like that. And so I make my clients read a book about art if they can't get out of their own way. And they're like, well, why? I don't want to do that. I want to learn about syndication. I want to learn about multifamily. And I'm like, no, you have to switch. It's like you said, reading when you go to the bookstore, you have to switch your mind, because if it's just the same thing over and over again, you're going to almost bleed it into the same construct, I guess, is what I'm getting after.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And, going back to the coaching part of it, that, I really don't want to coach anybody one-on-one anymore, any longer, but I will, for the right thing. But, a guy that I was mentoring recently, he paid me a fair amount of money to be his mentor, to be his coach through this process. But what happened, because he was closer to the sun, if you will, and I don't want to call myself the sun by any means. There are tremendously larger and more successful people that do what I do, but he paid to be near somebody that had what he wanted financially and in a business. Well, we get almost to the end of his 1 year commitment, my 1 year commitment to him. And I said, you know what? I'm really clicking with you. I think you're clicking with me. I'm really digging this relationship. So I'll tell you what, instead of I've taught you how to do it, now go out there and do it. And I will be here for you in support. And I will answer questions for you that come up in the contract you're trying to negotiate. I'll tell you what, come into one of my deals. I want to show you, because you're actually going to be part of my deal. You're going to work with my team and you're going to learn how. He's like, no shit, really? I was like, yeah, absolutely. But again, it speaks to that would have never happened had he not taken the chance to write me a 5-figure check. He got all the education that he was promised, but because it's the relationship, right? The book doesn't have a relationship behind it. We developed a relationship. I truly dig this dude. And so now we are working on a deal together in Austin right now. So, but where I'm probably going to end up going, the one-on-one is great. And I can charge you $100,000. I could charge you $1 million, but it's still only one-on-one. I make decent money, so I don't really need to crank it up. But what I'm starting to learn is the thing about the one-on-one mentorship, that shit that's kind of bugging me, is I can only help that one dude. And I love it. And I love helping that one person. I shouldn't say dude, male, female. I've mentored both. But what I'm going to start doing now is group mentoring. We're working on a seminar, or what I'm going to call a workshop, that we're going to do in Austin in October, middle of October. And I'm going to put 20 to 30 people in the room for a reasonable price to just sit there with us for 3 days. We're going to go two of my properties. And we're just going to deep dive on the process. But now, again, you have that live interaction. So it won't be as much as the mentorship, but for a smaller price, you'll be in a room with a lot of other people. But to me, there's as much or more value to that you won't get me for the year. No. But now you have, to Austin, your point, now you have all these other engaged people around you. That Bruce is one thing. I'll have him as a lifeline after the seminar, after the workshop. But I've also got all these other human beings that I met in the room that are going to go through the same thing that I'm trying to go through right now. And I have a peer group or a cohort now that I can lean on. And then we're going to go into monthly mastermind calls. I'll probably put 10 to 20 people in those. Again, it's just a way to help more people. Remember, I want to teach as many people as I can to have the life I have. And if I do group calls now, I can dramatically lower the price to maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a month instead of $50,000 to $100,000 for the year. But now I can bring 10 to 20 people together. We can all learn and go through it at the same time together, build a community. So that's kind of the thoughts that we have in mind and how we're trying to scale and help more people.
One of the really interesting things about a lot of successful people, especially the ones that you would want to pay to be around, is that they have this obsession with delivering value, or rather over delivering value. So one of the interesting things is if you find the right mentor, you find the right group, and you pay $20,000, $50,000, that person is coming into it thinking, I have to deliver more than I take. And that's a broad generalization, but I find it holds pretty true for a lot of high functioning people where they're like, if you're going to pay me $50,000, you're going to walk away with so much more. I'm going to see to it. Like, it almost becomes like this
It's a social contract that you have to over deliver.
Exactly. Otherwise, like the person isn't going to sustain. It's not sustainable. Like what got them there is by over delivering that value, just by definition. But I guess one of the questions then is like, how do you know when you found the right group or the right mentor? Because there are a lot of charlatans out there. There's a lot of crap groups out there that you could drop a lot of money on and walk away just, that much lighter on your wallet.
For me, it's all about, connections and talking to people. And when I say connections and asking people, again, do not ask a question on a public forum. It's just so unprofessional. Again, I'm keep going back to this one platform, and I love the platform, but it's the biggest platform in the world at this. So I'm just going to keep bringing it up. It's Bigger Pockets. I love Bigger Pockets. And they can't control what's being said on their forums, but you'll have people say, hey, what do you think about Fred, the guru? And then you'll have 200 people come, oh, what a piece of shit that guy. That is so unprofessional. I could give you a free fucking pony and you're still pissed off at me because you got to feed the goddamn thing. I'll give you a free car. Well, but I got to put gas in it. No matter how good I am or how much I did for a person, there eventually will be somebody pissed off at me because they didn't do it. So now it's my fault. So when you do this stuff publicly, it's so unfair. Find somebody at a meetup, at a real estate conference, one-on-one talking with people, and to say, hey, who have you, I'm looking for this. Have you used, a coach in this, discipline? Yes, I have. Well, who did you use? I used Fred. Well, how was Fred? Do it that way, please. But I think you just got to ask around. A lot of people don't have a very high EQ. If you do have a very high EQ, my thought is just talk to them. How much do you charge? How many things do I get? When is it? No, just have a human conversation with the person you're thinking about giving $5 or $20 or $50,000 to. Do you click as human beings? If you don't, I think you should move on. But they could teach me how to make $2 million yesterday. But if you're not a good social or character fit, just move on. I'm very lucky. My EQ is extremely high. So I just talk to people. And again, you got to get out of the bullet pointed list of questions and just have a human conversation with somebody.
And what you mentioned there at the outset about getting referrals and advice from people, and you go to the Bigger Pockets forum or you go to the networking event, be really mindful who you're getting advice and referrals from. Don't go to somebody who is broke and ask them for advice on money. And don't ask for them for a referral to their coach that's clearly not working. Like, go and find the people whose advice and referrals are worth the time and energy, and talk to them and say like, hey, Bruce, you're crushing it right now. Who would you refer? Who would you recommend? Like, that's going to mean so much more than just going to the bookstore and, talking to the barista and saying, hey, who should I work with?
Yeah. So when I was in Nashville over the weekend, I was sitting with a group of people right after a meetup that I was speaking at. And I was asking them financial questions about, what do you do with your money? How do you invest your money? What kind of tax strategies do you employ? And I was doing it in a way that I was asking, of these two options, which do you know to be right? And there's no wrong answer, but what do you know to be right? Oh, it's this, definitely. Okay. Why? The Socratic thing. Why? Well, because Fred told me to. Who the fuck is Fred? Or I get this all the time, and we all do. So Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey. There's nothing wrong with those people. They're fantastic people with great programs if you're financially broken. People call up Susie Orman on the fucking radio and say, hey, can I afford this? You need somebody to tell you if you should spend money on a $4 million car when you work at fucking McDonald's? Come on. So sorry, big rant there. But I don't even remember what I was talking. Oh, yeah. So, and where the conversation kind of came up from, I asked people about, okay, I turned to one of the ladies at the table. I said, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. You have to answer me honestly, and there is no wrong answer, I promise. She goes, okay, I'm scared now, but okay. I said, life insurance, term or whole life? And she go, well, she didn't say anything. She's just staring at me and smiling because she knows I'm about to get hung here. I said, no, I promise. But out of the corner of my eye on the other side of the table, I see an accountant sitting there. And I'm still staring at her. And I look out of the corner of my eye and I point over at him. And I said, I know your answer.
Yeah.
And then I turned to him and he goes, well, term, of course. I'm like, I'm not saying it's wrong for you. I'm saying most people, it's not the right approach for. I think, where did you hear this? Well, everybody says, and I said, Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, term and invest the difference. I want you to do something. They're like, what? Go talk to billionaires. Ask them what they're doing. They're not put money in a 401k. 401ks and IRAs are fine. They're better than doing nothing. Absolutely. But I do my damnedest to get around as many billionaires as I can. I've met 4 billionaires, and I'm asking them, what do you do with your money? Don't ever self-insure your house. That's dumb. Oh, but that's what no, it's not. People think you're supposed to save up enough money to where you could afford to write a check to buy the house with cash. So now you're self-insured. So now I don't have to carry insurance. So it's, I can save that money. Anthony's word, it's opportunity cost. If I self-insure my $1 million house, just as an example, let's say it's 100,000, whatever it is, $1 million house, you can't touch that $1 million. Because if you touch that $1 million and your house burns to the ground, well, now the $1 million that you self-insured with is gone. So now you can't replace the house. Self-insurance is just dumb. But again, it was just trying to break that thought pattern of where are you getting your information from, as Anthony said. Who are you getting it from? Talk to people that are above your status, maybe, to figure out, again, with me, where are the billionaires putting their money? What are they doing for tax strategies? I don't want to say avoidance or any of that. Tax shelters, those have really bad connotations. But yeah, think about who. I love that you said that, Anthony. Who are you taking advice from?
I'm totally cool with tax avoidance, not tax evasion. One's legal, right. The other one's not so good. But it's beautiful because this all comes full circle. Get around high net worth individuals, billionaires. But guess what, guys? They're not the ones that are hanging out in bigger pockets, just kind of like leaving little notes to you and answering your random question. They're the people that you have to pay to be around. They're the ones that are going to cost you $50,000, $100,000. They're the ones that are hanging out in these groups. And so the big question is, like, if you want to be on the sun, you got to pay to get on the rocket. I don't know why you'd want to be on the sun. Let's change that metaphor maybe to the moon. I don't know.
But if you want to go to Mars with Elon, rethink that as you were saying it. Like,
if you want to go to Mars with Elon, you got to pay to get on the rocket. I
love that dude. He's so quirky, but he is so brilliant. I would pay to be near the sun.
I would pay to be near that sun. Yeah.
Him and Joe Rogan and Vayner. Well, I've done it with Vaynerchuk, but yeah, there's those brilliant minds in this world. If I could spend time with them, I would pay almost anything.
Mm-hmm. And it would still be worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
Austin, who would you pay to get near?
Nobody. He's dead. So I just want to. I might come out of my retirement just to have a drink with Anthony Bourdain. That's my dude. But I want to share a story. I have a buddy out of LA who trades $80 to $180 million off market apartments up the West Coast. And he's got tattoos. He comes from the streets. He works for KW. He doesn't work at Marcus and Millichap. And I had him speak to my group, and it was amazing. And he said, all these douchebags that are wearing the suits and their dad went to Harvard hate my guts. He goes, but you know what's interesting? He goes, I exclusively on most of my deals deal with billionaires. And he goes, the billionaires wearing flip-flops and some sweatpants, and all the guys in suits are working for the guy wearing sweatpants. And he goes, you know what the guy in sweatpants cares about my tattoos and what I look like? Not a damn thing. He cares about, do I have a deal that's going to make him money, give him what he needs? We're too worried about what it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like. And we need to be worried about what it actually is. And so when you're listening to people that have flipped their third house, the number one thing I love about Bruce is that Bruce said to me when we had lunch, yeah, I could have more units if I wanted to, but I love my lifestyle. And I think there's too many people out there searching for a monetary marker or a unit count or something in their business it's supposed to identify who the hell they are, when who you are as a person and the lifestyle that you're creating is far much more important. And I think that's the message that I hope that every time I jump on the podcast is broadcast more. And that's one of the things I love about Bruce, because he's happy with where he's at. And I hope I can share this. I don't care. He's an open book, but he
now
told
I'm
me.
scared.
He told me no. It's not even that big of a deal. We both love Utah. Me and Bruce both. Oh my God, we love Utah so much. He said he actually like cried when he saw the mountains. It was like so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
But Bruce said, I'm going to go buy a ridiculously big house. I know I shouldn't, but I don't care. And like he's totally like, and I want like 4 houses. I want one in Utah and Costa Rica. We're too posturing. We're too posturing for unit counts and what we're doing instead of just doing us and letting us and getting around the people that make us happy and buying yourself into rooms and getting the coaches that are going to bring you to the next level. And I think that we need to get back to that more of a society. You look at people that are highly successful, a Gary Vaynerchuk, an Elon Musk, these people that you're talking about that you want to be in the room with, you know what they are at their core? Themselves. And that's why they shine through. And that's why they're so authentic. Somebody wrote me this morning that, marketing, true marketing is nothing more than being authentic. Like that's how people buy into you. And ads and all that thing is you're selling them an idea of who you are instead of just being who you are. And I thought that was super important. It's one of the things that I'm realizing about myself. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up his butt, but one of the things that, he made me okay with being myself is because he's just him. Bruce is, there's a couple cuss words and it's going to be okay. And we're going to get through this.
If it's only a couple, I'm not doing my job.
I don't know, man.
But I think at the end of the day, if you find somebody that resonates with you and maybe you have to pay for it, the lesson to this whole episode, maybe you have to pay for it. Maybe you have to add value to them for a year or two, before you can get in a room with them. Just stick to the path and do what you need to do to get around these people because they're going to take you to another level. Because I know they've taken my life when I joined a mastermind and these guys had 30, 100 Airbnbs. They gave me like 2 tips that I would have paid like $30,000 for that changed my whole business. And it happened just like that.
Well, that's the thing. I said I hung out with that guy in Utah, paid him $25,000. I really took one key idea. He gave me lots of good ideas, but I took one key nugget. And to me, that one key nugget was worth $25,000, And I'm not always trying to run ROI calculations on, well, how many dollars did I actually physically tangibly make from that? No, I now have a friend because we've become friends now. Now, if I'm a jerk, now you're not always going to become friends with the people that you pay money to hang out with. And that's just the way life is. But with this guy, we've become kind of friends. And now anytime I have a question that is in his wheelhouse, I text him and said, hey, dude, who do you have for this? Instantly, he's available. Maybe not he's available, but he responds and he puts me in touch with somebody on his team that will get me in the right position. Because I did take the time to invest money in myself. Yes, I lined his pocket with $25,000. And some people are turned off by the pay to play thing. But you know what? Maybe you can't afford to pay somebody $25,000. That's fine. I couldn't when I first started. When I first started, I was coming out of retail. I couldn't afford to pay somebody $25,000. It was a quarter of my whole salary. And so, but there's just so much that comes from this. So again, that guy, I said, I know there's something real to this, to bring it full circle here. There's something real to this overfunded cash, whole life insurance, but I can't figure it out. You said you use it, right? He goes, yeah. I said, who do you use? Here you go. He sent me his contact. I now have 2 policies with that dude. But, it's just, I have connections and I have ways into different things that I would have never had any idea about. I was talking to a guy that bought a piece of art for $10,000, donated it, I think it was 3 years later, for $230,000. All, it's the tax avoidance, not, what did you say?
Avoidance, not evasion. Yep.
Yeah. So it was tax avoidance. It was legit. A nonprofit, a charity got the use of that art. But I was like, you did what? He goes, well, yeah, you don't know about that? I'm like, I work at McDonald's. How the hell do I know about that stuff? I don't work at McDonald's.
The only reason I know about it is billions. he had he had a bunch of art show up, and he was like, nope, and he refused to sign for it because he would have to pay the taxes on it.
Yeah, when Chuck threw his glass of red wine on what was supposed to be a replica, but it was the real thing at his own house. Yeah, I love Billions.
Yeah. Dude, it turns me into a different person. I can't watch it.
They're both screwed up human beings, but it's a great show.
Such a dark humans. But that's the beauty of reality, is that we live in the shades of gray. We're not black and white creatures. Right. But this comes back to the concept of buy assets, not liabilities. And the two most valuable assets you will ever invest in: yourself and your network. So if you're investing in a group, if you're investing in a mentorship, like, you can look at that and write it off into both categories. You're investing in yourself, you're investing in your network. And to your point, 25,000 might be unfeasible where you're at right now. Maybe what's uncomfortable and the right stepping stone for you is 500. Maybe it's 1,000, but at the point of this conversation, and hopefully for the people that are listening at home, and they're like, are they trying to sell me something? Like, we're not trying to sell you anything. We're just trying to show you that, like, the mindset of successful people is that they are willing to pay to invest in themselves and their network in ways that people who are not successful do not. And so if you have been on the fence, if you're a person that's always looked at these groups or these mentorships or coaches and been like, poo-poo, well, just know that you're probably on the wrong side of the success versus not successful dichotomy there, because most successful people are willing to pay that.
I didn't tell this story because it just popped in my head, and we'll get out of here. When I was at my lowest before I got sober, I was looking through Instagram one night at 11:30 and was really broke. And Matty A said, "This time only, I'm doing 2 coaching calls, $750." And I sat there for like 20 minutes and I was like, don't you do it. Like, don't you do it. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. And I texted him. I said, I was like, fuck it. I'll just put it on a credit card. So we do one call. One call was great. We got down to the last call, the last 5 minutes of the last second call. And he asked me this one question that changed my life forever. He said, if you were in a room 10 years from now with a bunch of billionaires and you deserve to be there, what's the one thing holding you back? And without thinking, my subconscious said alcohol. 30 days later, I got sober, and I've been sober for 2 years and a half, 2.5 years. So let's just say that $750 was the best money I've ever spent in my entire life.
And if you would have only been hanging out with your normal cohort that you go to the bar with, that would have never happened. But you were trying to broaden your mind, and something magical dropped in your lap.
Mm-hmm. Amen. That's a good point. I love it. Well, Buck, Bruce, do you want to sell him anything, or you want to sell him? No, I'm just kidding. Or you got anything you want to?
So I'll go. Okay, so I'm not trying to sell you. I don't give a shit if you buy it or not. But if you are interested in the book, it's called "Syndicating is a Bitch" for people that think they want to syndicate. Learn how to do it there, free. I mean, not free, but for like $15 to $25, depending on what format you buy it in. But it's a very inexpensive way to go about it. I don't want you to call me to be your mentor, to sign up for my seminar or anything like that. If you find me somehow somewhere and you want to, fine. I'm not asking you for that. The one thing I am going to ask is if there's anything you think, listening to my personality, I'm not for everybody. I own that. If you think I can help, or you just have some questions and you don't want an actual mentorship, dude, call me. Or so what I would say is go to calendly.com/A as in Apple, P as in Paul, T as in Tom, -guy, apartment guy. So calendly.com/APT-guy. Just grab a 30-minute slot with me. I'll give you time. I don't care. And again, I'm not trying to monetize this podcast. I don't want to be your mentor. As I've told you, it's exhausting. I love it, but man, it takes so much time. So I just have a free conversation with you, and hopefully I can give you enough to get you pointed in the right direction. But that's my only offer, really. I don't want to sell you a book. Go get it if you want it, right? But I just want to help people. That's it.
I love it. So for our listeners at home, here's your homework for the week. Austin, do you got a piece of homework, or should I give it?
Oh no, I just finished Bruce's book. It's fantastic. And then I actually
go read Bruce's book.
No, I actually took him up on that, and I called him last week for a money raising for some business, and he answered the question in 2 minutes, and it saved me an hour worth of work, probably more. So boom. So what's the homework?
So the homework this week is we've been talking about investing in yourself, investing in your network. I want you to go and spend some time this week reflecting on how are you investing in yourself and in your network? Are you showing up and actually putting your money where your mouth is? Are you actively seeking that next level, or are you just kind of comfortable where you're at, saying and going through the motions, but not really putting in the work or the money to get you there? So I want you to think this week, what could you do to invest in your network in a way that you haven't in the last, let's say, 3 months? Because for most people, they're just not putting the time, the energy, the money into it, into growing it. They might be spending some time on LinkedIn or Facebook. That's great, but it's not quite what we're talking about here. So that's your homework.
Love it.
I like that. So my parting thing here would be on that most of us have vision boards of some sort, right? Put on that vision board. We're talking about masterminds and coaches and people that you can get near, be near the sun. Maybe you can't afford, I think one of them's called Millionaire something or other, Joe Polish. But, maybe there's that one group that maybe you can't afford it right now, but that could be kind of a goal setting thing that I can't afford to give somebody $50,000 to $100,000 for an annual mastermind, but that's a goal for me. Make those types of goals. Not a watch that you really can't afford to buy. Well, but all my friends, your friends are fucking broke. They look like they're rich, but you're trying to keep up with the Joneses who are just as broke as you are. So have different goals, have different things that you aspire to do and become.
That's such a good goal, by the way, of like setting the ambition to be around these people or to be able to afford that type of group. If you set that as your goal, you're going to go so far. Yep. So quickly, it's going to make your head spin.
Yep, I agree.
That's a great point. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks for joining us here at the Brain Dump. Now, before you go, it's important to solidify what you've learned here today by taking action. If all you do is listen, then you're only going to retain a small amount of the information you consumed here today. So take a quick moment to really lock in any key insights, tidbits, or pieces of wisdom that you want to carry with you into the future. You can do this by heading over to iTunes and leaving a review with your top 3 takeaways from this episode. If you've already left a review, first, thank you so much. Second, it's time to start a Brain Dump journal. It doesn't have to be fancy, just a slip of paper will do where you can record a couple quick thoughts from each episode. Science shows this is one of the best ways to ensure long-term retention of new information. And finally, if you've got a brother, a sister, a coworker, or a best friend that you think would benefit from this episode, do them and us a favor and share with them this episode. Your support, as always, means the world to us.